and welcome to the weekend edition of Australian Indian Radio's streaming directly to your device by Chentex Multimedia Services. And once again, welcome to the show. And today we're going to talk a lot about what's going to be happening. Well, first of all, we'll take a look at the vaccine situation and, of course, looking at the situation in Victoria and the federal government and their response. And, of course, we are into winter. So what is the winter climate outlook? We'll take a look at that, and of course we'll be going into an interview with Arpit Singh from GOPIO Queensland as they present their mental health seminar tonight. Yes, it is tonight, so we'll talk all about that right here on the show. So let's get this show on the road with the first news for today, which is the vaccine situation and how Victoria has been plunged into a lockdown.
Hello and welcome to The Vaccine. I'm Casey Briggs. This week, renewed calls for a deeper investigation into the origins of SARS-CoV-2. Is the theory that the virus escaped from a lab gaining credibility? But we start in the state of Victoria, which has been plunged into another lockdown, the fourth for people living in Melbourne. So far, this outbreak has several dozen cases. 12 in a day is the maximum that we've seen so far. We can hope for the best, but it seems likely there'll be at least a few more cases to be found. Authorities are hoping any more cases that do emerge are among the 15,000 primary and secondary contacts that have already been found and quarantined, unable to infect anyone else. So far, they are all turning out to be linked. To this point, the containment strategy is working. And if there are cases in the community, well, that's where the lockdown comes in. This jump straight to some of the toughest restrictions means Victoria shouldn't be in any immediate threat of reliving this experience from last year. This scare looks like it's also prompted a surge in vaccinations in Victoria after things had been looking a little too flat. We do need to see if this trend sticks and if vaccine supplies keep up with the new appetite for vaccination. And it'll be interesting to see if the events in Victoria prompt more people in other states to get a jab too. There's nothing really here to see yet, but it hasn't really been long enough since the outbreak started for any change to be reflected in the data. Victorians have heeded the call, lining up in large numbers at testing centres. More than 40,000 people have been tested in the past 24 hours, and vaccination booking lines have been overwhelmed after the rollout was expanded, with people aged from 40 to 49 now able to get the Pfizer jab. Victorian authorities say they're not getting overconfident, warning more cases are likely to be found.
You really never know what to expect. Of course, 4 is better than 10. It is not over yet. We could get 10 tomorrow, we could get 20 tomorrow. We absolutely have to recognise that there are thousands and thousands of close contacts still to go through their incubation period who could become symptomatic.
Beijing has reacted angrily to renewed calls to investigate the origins of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Chinese authorities have dismissed the theory it may have leaked from a laboratory in Wuhan as a conspiracy. US President Joe Biden's asked intelligence officials to determine if it was a leak or if it came from human contact with an infected animal. ABC China correspondent Bill Birtles explains what we know.
Unless you've been living under a rock in a distant galaxy far, far away, you've heard of it. Coronavirus. To date, more than 168 million cases, at least 3.5 million people dead, and the search for patient zero continues. At the heart of that search is the question, where did it come from? From the beginning, the prevailing theory has been this virus passed from animals to humans. It still is. The wet market in Wuhan, China was linked to early COVID cases. But more than 18 months after the first case was reported, no one knows what animal might have been the source. It was initially thought it was a bat, the same as the SARS epidemic almost 20 years ago.
Most coronaviruses that we know of are of origin from that have infected the population, SARS-CoV-1, MERS, generally come from an animal origin.
The US Centers for Disease Control website still says, we know that it originally came from an animal, likely a bat. But now, what was considered a conspiracy theory that the virus came from a lab in Wuhan is now being seriously considered.
President Biden now calling on the U.S. intelligence community to intensify its investigation into the origin of COVID-19.
And US President Joe Biden has conceded the American intelligence community is split between the two theories, albeit with low to moderate confidence in either. Wuhan, China is home to the Wuhan Institute for Virology, which studies coronaviruses. And the Wall Street Journal, citing a previously undisclosed US intelligence report, recently revealed 3 researchers from that institute became sick enough that they sought hospital care in November 2019, a month before China reported its first case. In fairness, though, in China, even for a moderate cold, people usually go to the hospital to see a doctor.
It comes from China.
The Trump administration's dogged pursuit of China as the culprit for the pandemic cast its lab leak theory in a dubious light. Beijing all along has characterised it as nothing more than a smear campaign and has actually turned the accusation back on the US, alleging without any evidence that the virus came from a US Army laboratory. Most scientists still say an animal source is the most likely, including the team of international researchers who went to Wuhan and issued their report in March this year. But their access was limited by the Chinese authorities. Now, the Biden administration is asking the US intelligence community and other agencies for a 90-day review on the origins of this international catastrophe. But
international catastrophe, and of course it is always good to find the trace, but at this point in time I would say it is more important to find how are we going to deal with it, how do we get on top of things, and all the countries in the world to be working together on that combined and united front and making that approach. Well, right now, with the vaccine rollout here in Australia, the federal government has been put in a limelight.
It's 2 months behind schedule, but the government's chalking this up as a milestone.
In the next 24 hours, we'll pass 4 million Australians who've been vaccinated.
Not quite. 4 million Australians have received a COVID-19 vaccine. 2 doses are required though, and only 500,000 adults have received both.
Just 2% of the Australian population has been fully vaccinated.
The Chief Medical Officer says that's because of the lag time between the doses. Anyone who's received AstraZeneca has to wait 12 weeks.
Zero protection with no dose, very good protection with the first dose, and then from next week we'll be starting to see those second doses really rolling out.
But mounting pressure over the pace and progress of the program has put the government on the defensive.
You said there's no rush for weeks and weeks and weeks. You said there's no rush. We talked about it on this program.
That's false.
And it's not false. You said it on our program many times.
No, that's not something I have ever said.
He may not have said it, but the Prime Minister has.
It's not a race, it's not a competition.
Several times.
It's not a race, it's not a competition. Greg Hunt was just trying to rewrite history.
The latest COVID outbreak, it appears, has injected a much-needed sense of urgency. This time last week, more than 101,000 doses were administered nationwide, including 26,000 in Victoria. Yesterday, as the state was plunged into lockdown, a record number of Australians got a shot. 124,000 across the country, driven by a near doubling of doses in Victoria, 41,000 in that state alone.
The strongest reason is to avoid a lottery, to avoid the lottery of death.
With community transmission in Victoria, the risk of illness and even death has increased. Medical experts are now considering urgent changes to the vaccine rollout, possibly releasing more supplies of Pfizer currently in reserve and even expanding access to the AstraZeneca jab to get more people vaccinated more quickly.
And that is the case, we're trying to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. That still remains the challenge. Of course, as was said in that first report, that, for the vaccine to be effective, you have to have that second dose as well. So, even though the number of people who have got the initial jab might be high, but the number of people who have received the second jab is only about 2%, as was said. So, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done out there. Well, right now, South Australia has also made some announcements about its borders and in relation to Victoria.
In terms of our changes to directions, in the next hour or two, I'll be signing a fresh direction which prohibits entry for anyone travelling from regional Victoria into South Australia. Our previous direction didn't affect regional Victorians other than those people who were in the Bendigo local government area, but this change that is about to take place will affect the rest of regional Victoria to the same extent that it does Greater Melbourne. The one exception for this is Victorians who reside within 70 kilometres of the South Australian border. They will still be permitted to come into South Australia and operate as they normally do, unaffected, whether it be school, work, shopping. They'll be permitted to travel into and out of South Australia for those purposes without any hindrance. The changes are coming into effect as a result of a range of criteria that Professor Spurrier will explain. So without any further from me, I'll then hand over to Professor Spurrier to explain that.
Well, that's it. The South Australian and Queensland government has introduced restrictions for people who have had visited Whittlesey, North Melbourne and Greater Melbourne. These restrictions are now expanded due to a cluster of cases that have spread into Melbourne and surrounding areas, which has put Victoria into a statewide lockdown. And as from the advice, Victoria will be a COVID-19 hotspot. This means that the border will close to new arrivals from Victoria, except for people who have exemptions. This is Queensland I'm talking about. And the key message for all people who have been in Victoria in the last 14 days is to go and get tested if they have any symptoms. Anyone who has arrived in Queensland from Victoria must quarantine in their home or a place that they are staying from 10 a.m. and for 7 days. They can only leave home for essential reasons until Victoria re-evaluates the lockdown. A plain English version of the full restrictions is available on Public Health or Queensland Health website. So these are the directions right here from Queensland. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we are, I don't want to jinx it, but we are quite lucky to be here in Queensland with the way things are. We've had our the lockdowns, but not as much as Victoria. So we've got a taste of what it is like to be in a lockdown. It is not a nice thing. And of course, we are all thinking of our friends and families in Victoria, but it is in the best interest. It is in the interest of the community. And if we look at the way we have handled it here in Australia and in Queensland as well, is remarkable. When you look at many other countries, as we know, there's a number of cases now looming in Japan as well, and there have been fresh calls to boycott or cancel the Olympics totally, not even running it in those small and restricted manner that they were going to. So, it is very, very challenging. Okay, right now, I'm also mindful of the time. Let's move on and into the winter. So what do we have in store and what can we expect in the coming months? Message from Bureau of Meteorology.
Welcome to the Climate and Water Outlook for June to August 2021. The winter outlook shows above average rainfall is likely across parts of northern and eastern Australia. But first, let's look at recent conditions. Autumn rainfall was below average for much of southern Australia, but above average for western parts of Western Australia, much of New South Wales and southern Queensland. April and May rainfall was less than half of the average across much of southern Australia. Autumn daytime temperatures were generally warmer than average, although cooler across New South Wales. After a drier April and May, soil moisture across southern Australia is now mostly below average. There is above average soil moisture in parts of Western Australia, New South Wales and Queensland. Storages in the Murray-Darling Basin, coastal New South Wales and the Tanami Timor Sea coast are all higher than 12 months ago, nearly 20% higher for the Murray-Darling Basin. Floodwaters from significant rain in northern New South Wales in late March have arrived at Menindee Lakes. These are the first major inflows since 2016, following record-breaking drought conditions in upstream catchments between 2017 and 2019. So what will influence our climate in the coming months? Our major climate drivers, such as ENSO and the Indian Ocean Dipole, are currently neutral and are likely to remain neutral throughout the winter. But warmer ocean temperatures to the north of Australia may increase the moisture available to enhance rainfall earlier in the season. So what does this mean for the winter outlooks? June to August is likely to be wetter than average across much of northern Australia, but as it is the dry season, rainfall totals will not be high. Inland parts of New South Wales and South Australia may also see above normal rainfall, while parts of southern WA may experience a drier winter. Near median to high stream flows are expected at most forecast locations for May to July. Winter daytime temperatures are likely to be warmer than average for areas closer to the coast. The winter bushfire outlook shows above average fire potential in parts of the top end, largely due to enhanced vegetation growth from a bumper wet season. So in summary, winter is likely to see above average rainfall in parts of the north and east, warmer than average days near the coast, near median to high stream flows at most locations, and higher fire potential in parts of the northern NT. Thanks for joining us. You can find out more about our outlooks on the Bureau's website.
Yes, and you can check that out on the Bureau's website, and it is wonderful always to get the updates from them and the media releases that they keep sending us. So it's wonderful to see that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now we'll take a commercial break, get a message from my sponsors, and right after that we will be joining in the studio with Arpit from GOPIO Queensland to talk about the mental health seminar happening today. Yes, it is happening today.
GLOBENET Realty. GLOBENET Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GLOBENET Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GLOBENET Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GLOBENET Realty. Real estate is our world.
So ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this very, very important segment. And today we're going to be talking about some of the things which is very, very important within our community. Many times, topics such as these are swept under the carpet. People don't want to talk about it. But right now, in the studio with me is Arpit. Arpit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Meshi. Thank you for having me.
And it's wonderful to see you here today. Okay, so as I've been told that mental health awareness is going to be taking place. So could you tell us about when it is going to be taking place and how did it come about?
Thank you for having me, Umeshi, here. This mental health awareness event is the first ever event that GOPIO Queensland is organizing in the mental health space, because we felt there is a need of awareness in our community and in the public in general. We should be talking about mental health like any other bodily issue, and we need to address it before it gets worse. A lot of people are not aware about it, and they're not aware of the severity of it and how it should be tackled. That's why we are organizing this event, which is sponsored by Queensland Mental Health Commission, which is a body of Queensland government. It's also supported by Black Dog Institute. We will be having a presenter there from Black Dog Institute presenting a whole talk about breaking down depression and how it should be looked at, and how we can help people who are suffering through any mental health illness. It's happening on the 29th of May at QMC Kangaroo Point. It's a good auditorium, amazing facilities. We will be, it starts from 5:30 and ends at 9 p.m.
And thank you so much for that the information. Well, the two things you have talked about, one was the Queensland government's mental health section, and the other section was the Black Dog Institute. So, we'll go one by one. The first, Queensland government's mental health section. So, what is the division and what does it do and how did it come to be involved?
Queensland government, as we all know, has been handling the COVID crisis quite exceptionally well, and they have a dedicated team that looks into the mental health space and the awareness that needs to be spread out into the community. Their offices are in Brisbane City and everywhere else. It's called Queensland Mental Health Commission. As a community organization, we reached out to them for support of this event, and they were extremely welcomed our event and the initiative, and they are sponsoring the whole event, and we are glad to have that their support in our event.
And it is always good to have that kind of support, because as we know, without the support, it is very, very hard to, make events come together, because there's many kinds of costs that are involved, and coming on board like that, the government coming on board is a great achievement for GOPIO, and I think it's a testament to you to having arranged that. Now the other one you talked about is Black Dog Institute. Many people, many of our viewers and listeners might not know about Black Dog Institute, so could you tell us in a nutshell what that is?
So Black Dog Institute is a very prestigious and old organization. They have been working in researching the mental health issues, why they happen, what happens when someone goes through any mental health issue. They are a big name in this space in Queensland and all over Australia, and their approach to mental health illness is always evidence-based. So all their presenters, all their presentations are evidence-based and well-researched, and the speaker, the presenter that we're going to have in our event, his name is Peter Ferreira. He's got a lived experience of depression, and he will be presenting a presentation on breaking down depression. And that whole presentation will be evidence-based. And being, in a first world country, we have to have a backing to what we are saying. And I appreciate the amount of research that Black Dog does behind whatever they say, whatever they write, and the whole presentation is going to be backed by facts and evidence. So Black Dog is a big name in this space. It's just like Beyond Blue. Beyond Blue has got a phone service, but Black Dog is working behind the scenes and researching everything.
And that is wonderful. And as you mentioned that the presenter will have a lived experience, and I have found working with in the DV space with White Ribbon that many of our presenters who come on who have had a lived experience, their presentation is always so strong, it's so engaging, so compelling, and it really connects with the audience because they are not just there saying they have been through that and they know what it's like to be. So it's good to see that that's happening. And of course, GOPIO, which is the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, as the organizing body, and Queensland Multicultural Centre, which is otherwise known as BMAC. Everyone knows that. Under the Story Bridge is where this is taking place. Now, also you mentioned about the mental health and how people are not aware of many things. Now there's always to and from, many times people speak about many things, and this happens in any space. When we do, I'm just referring many times to domestic violence because I'm involved with White Ribbon, so I know there. Many times we come across things, people say, why do you people even discuss it? By discussing this, you're bringing it out to the community. People who didn't know, things that were not happening will start now happening, and things like that. So why is it important to make that awareness, to make people aware of this situation?
So Meshi, that's a very good question, and obviously there are so many reasons why we should be talking about it. One being the realization and being able to help someone before it gets worse, because if someone doesn't know, if awareness is not enough, and if not many people are aware of the different kinds of illnesses, they won't be able to help each other out. And obviously in this fast-paced life and with so much pressure on each and every individual, everyone goes through some sort of mental health problem, and it's the awareness will help that person and the people around them to recognize what's happening, what's wrong with that person. I wouldn't say wrong, what's not normal, and then they can reach out to that person who's suffering, or the person can reach out to their friends or family, or preferably a professional, and then they can seek help and prevent themselves from getting worse. So it's so important to catch it at the initial level and just remedy it. And it's nothing that we shouldn't talk about. Why shouldn't we talk about it? It's just a normal illness. It's just the society that's attached this taboo and stigma to it, but there's nothing wrong in talking about it. It's definitely an illness that can be cured, can be managed, and can save lives and the quality of life if addressed at this right time.
And you rightfully mentioned that addressed at the right time, so that is very important. And of course that stigma that you talked about in the community, many times people say that these things should not be talked about and things like that. So as you mentioned, as the whole topic says itself, the topic and the title itself is mental health. So it means health. So we, so even though reference many times is made to, that this is a, illness that can be cured, but health, in any kind of health, if, same as physical health, unless you practice and other things, unless you are physically fit, many times you will lose your physical health. So as long as your physical health is important, I think mental health is equally important as well, and sometimes even more so. If you are mentally prepared, there are many things you can do in life. You can, if you have that mental block and in your mind, then many things if you set out yourself to achieve in life, you can't because of that. So I think it's a very timely event which is happening. Of course, many people are not aware of the numbers and other things. Many things are not reported. So is the case in, I keep referring to domestic violence because that's the space that we've been working in. And, the facts and figures that come out, we know for sure that there are much more cases happening out in the field which have not been reported. So many times the stats might not be 100% up to date because of that, what you mentioned, that people do not want to come out and talk about it. So I think it is very, very important. The topic is very vast, meaning, the mental health in itself, there could be many different segments there as well, many different aspects of it, of course, different levels of it as well. Where does it start? Exactly. Is it just stress, depression, or where is it going? And of course, looking at if it's not treated, where do people end up? So, unfortunately, all those things. So all this will be discussed in this mental awareness seminars. So once again, how do people come to this event, and how do, if anyone is interested in attending, what do they need to do?
Yes, so Meshi, I think I missed to explain the schedule of the event because there's a very important and exciting part of the event that I would like to, say. We are having a live theater play performance at the event, and that's what I'm really excited about. And a lot of my friends and circle people, they're all excited to see a live show, and the performance is obviously along the same theme. So it's a 30-minute short play on mental health awareness and how to seek help. That we'll be having that, and also there'll be food from Kulcha Culture. So people are excited about that as well, and surely I'm going to be having that food because I love Kulcha Culture. So everything is included in the price. The ticket price is $15 per person, inclusive of the theater performance, the whole event, and the food. It's a vegetarian meal. I'm not sure if I have to mention that. And it's, there's a link on GOPIO's Facebook page to click on and get your tickets. So please book your tickets as soon as possible, because due to COVID, obviously, the capacity is limited. So we've got limited seats. It's obviously based on first come, first serve basis. So let's book our tickets as soon as possible and make this event a successful one.
And the event will be successful, I know, because it is for the first time that GOPIO is presenting this, and it is something which is the need of the moment. I mean, it needs to be discussed, as you mentioned there. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. For $15, you get the attendance, which is, and of course, as Arpit has mentioned, that it's a 30-minute play. And I think that's a very good way, including arts into that, and performing art to explain the mental health and mental health issues, and upon reporting on that. As we know that a similar event in a different field on child abduction is happening, and again they've chosen the medium of acting, and so the stage acting to present that honor. And here's the link on the screen, and this is the link, and you can search GOPIO Queensland and the website and the Facebook page. The links will be available on, and as Arpit has mentioned, that it is on a first come first basis. So please, you don't want to miss out on this event to find out what's happening, because it is very, very important that we get this message out into the community. Many times even people talk about, or someone who's getting a little bit older might have mental health issues, but it's not that. It could start at the early age as well. So prevention is better than cure, and it is always good to know rather than not knowing what it is. The symptoms are very, very important. Once you know the symptoms, and the correct diagnosis, then only treatment can be, based upon that findings. So it is very important that we find that. So once again, Arpit, thank you so much for coming in today and discussing this. Wishing you all the very best with this event. And I know that you have really, really worked very hard, and you have made everyone in GOPIO very proud that you have been able to put together this event.
Thank you so much, Umesh. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all your support. And he's going to be there as well. So you'll get a chance to meet Umesh, the man, face to face. So don't miss this opportunity. We would love your support.
We'll see you all on 29th of May at Queensland Multicultural Centre for the Mental Health Awareness presented by GOPIO Queensland. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to seeing you all there tonight at Queensland Multicultural Centre, which is at 102 Kangaroo Point in Queensland, of course right next to Radio 4EB under the Story Bridge. So ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for today. Until Monday, it's goodbye from us. But tonight, we will be having a live session from the event itself. We have not been promoting that because we wanted people to, actually come to the event. It's always best to come to the event. But we will be live streaming the event as well, because there's many people who might not be able to attend. So for your benefit, it will be live streamed as well. Now that is dependent upon getting a good signal. Sometimes the venue can be a little bit challenging in terms of the Wi-Fi, but things going well. We'll look forward to watching, connecting with all of you tonight there as well. So until next time, it's goodbye from me. It's been wonderful having your company, and please have a wonderful day, but above all, remain safe and do exercise care.